Well, I'm a big fan of collecting toys that connect to specific childhood memories, and these Ben Cooper costume toys really hit the mark. They made a lot of these figures, but the DC superhero ones are the ones that I remember the most. So of course, I bought them all. The costumes these figures were created from were made by the Ben Cooper Company, founded in 1937. The very first Halloween costumes for kids that were made in this style were a Disney license of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. A friend of mine clued me into these figures. I had no idea they existed. I had this Batman costume when I was a kid. I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And the fact that they made a figure of the costume, I was just dumbfounded. So then I had to get all the superheroes, because I do remember these too. And I don't know, somewhere along the line I remember a Superman costume. It may have been the following year. The Batman one kind of was what got me most excited when I was a kid. NECA has made quite a few of these costume kid characters. There are quite a few generic monsters, ghosts, skeletons, clowns, all true to the costumes I remember seeing as a kid. Anyway, I have these mask figures, these costume figures, and I'm going to open some of these guys up. By the late 1940s, Ben Cooper was one of the largest and most prominent Halloween costume manufacturers in the United States. His costumes were generally very thin fabric with a silkscreen image on the front that sold for less than $3. I'm going to start with the Batman because Batman is the one that I had when I was a kid. I actually wore this mask. So, all right, so I'm going to start with Batman. I'm going to open this guy up. Got this method of popping these things open so we don't end up wrecking them. Pull Batman out. Yeah. It's in his little house here. All seated in there. Pretty cool. You can see a little bit, like, you can see like the kid's eyes inside there, which is a little bit creepy. But I guess that's what it, and you can't take the mask off. I was curious if you could take the mask off. Like this weird like recess into the kid's hair is the rubber band that would have been cutting into your head. So we're not going to see the freaky little kid underneath, but you can see the back of his head. I mean, this is me when I was a kid, man. You know, these costumes were made of like a really cheap vinyl. These are actually nicer than the vinyl that the costumes were originally made of. It's got a little bit of a thicker sort of texture to it, so it's pretty nice. And again, they printed Batman on the front. Yeah, and then it comes with this bag, which is the Super Friends. And that was pretty big in the 70s when these costumes would have been out that, you know, would have really sold the costumes, was the Super Friends. So that's Batman. One of the more unusual things about the Ben Cooper costumes were the fact that they duplicated the faces of the characters on the front of the costume. Apparently it was a licensing agreement issue because the kids sometimes would take the masks and put them on the top of their heads because the masks were sweaty. And if they did that, you wouldn't know who the character was. So they had to replicate the face of the character on the front of the costume so that the licensing agreements would go through. Okay, next up, the Joker. I've already cut the seals on these. They are sealed. Okay. Joker. Zip him out. That is the Joker. Look at on the shoes. He's kind of got some Joker shoes. Colored shoes like this back in the 70s. Didn't happen. I once had a pair of red sneakers because I wanted to have sneakers similar to my $6 Million Man. And it was a whole to-do. And I wore them to school for one day. I got made fun of. And I never wore them again. And my mom was so mad. The method of creating a mask out of vac form PVC and a cheap fabric costume became so common that there were many times when these costumes would be all that you would see on Halloween. All right, we got Batgirl. This girl open. Barbie was pretty big back then. But this is really cute. You know, they still wear costumes that they wore. A lot of times, you know, kids didn't get a choice with the costume. These were like, I think $2 to $3 when I was a kid, so they were pretty cheap. So parents would get, you know, they'd be like, oh, $3 costume. Bing. You know, that's parents for you. Stupid parents. Stuff. Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman. Collect them all, which I always do. I'm such a sucker for collect them all. Well, here's the thing. My philosophy is, if you don't get them when they come out, if it's a series that you really want all of them, you're gonna end up spending a lot of time chasing them all down. So. Okay, now this is Wonder Woman. It's a pretty big departure. You know, they really had to take some creative license on her costume because obviously she has a lot of flesh showing in her Super Friends appearance. So they put the blue pants on and the red shirt underneath so that it doesn't look like your little girl's dressed up scantily clad on Halloween. You know, it's still really fun. I do kind of wish that you could take the masks off, but the thing is that the kids probably underneath are probably super creepy. All right, we're gonna open up Superman here. What's that guy open? Last but not least, Superman. This would have been a very popular costume. I know I saw plenty of Superman. I think we may have had, I don't remember if it was me after I had the Batman costume. I do remember Superman. Maybe it was my little brother had Superman. Yeah, he's pretty fun, you know. Pretty fun. Oh, the insert. And these just came out. I had them on pre-order because, like I said, my friend called them out to me, but the superhero ones, the DC hero ones weren't out yet. And I'm not sure, but he was a cool mask to have too. Squeeze him in there, you know. Very cool. At least they stayed true to his costume and didn't put Superman across it. Well, they did stick an S on his waist, which is not true to the character, but still pretty fun. You know, you can kind of see the kid eyes in there, which is pretty cool. And they definitely would have had this tied off cape. It's just tied in a knot around him. So it's very similar to, you know, the way the costume would have been as a kid. It's really fun. Very nostalgic. Very cool. It's something I really wanted to have in my collection because it connects to a childhood memory, which, you know, it's what it's all about. Well, here they all are, together with their trick-or-treat bags, looking pretty cool. I think these are some really great set of figures, especially if you have memories of these costumes as a kid. It's a great set of figures to have. Well, I hope you enjoyed getting to know these little guys as much as I did. I know we haven't been posting a ton. I promise we're not giving up. Please leave some comments below if you remember these costumes from the old days. And always like and subscribe, and thank you so much again for watching.